My name is Zach from WorleyTutorials.com, and in this video we're going to be talking about selections. Alright, now if we're in Photoshop CS6 and we want to use our selection tool, let's say we want to select a certain thing, we have multiple different options to do that. One, and the most basic, is the marquee tool, which all you have to do is, I'm going to change my background from background to a layer, hit OK, and I'm going to click and drag, and I can make this selection, and I can just simply hit delete, and there you go. I've deleted that because I selected it first, and then I deleted it. Now I'm going to undo that. If I want to do the inverse of this, okay, so I want to keep just the square and delete everything else, I can go up to Select, Inverse. Now it's selected everything except for the square, and if I hit delete, you can see that it deleted everything else. Command Z. To deselect, to get rid of these like marching ants type of look, then all you got to do is Command or Control D to deselect. And I'm going to move on to the next little option. You also have the elliptical marquee tool, which basically is exactly the same thing, just in a circle form. If you hold Shift while you're making this selection, it will keep it a perfect circle. And just like in Illustrator, if you haven't seen the Illustrator tutorials basics, please go and check those out because it has a lot of these keyboard shortcuts and kind of helps you out as far as shapes go. So if you hold Shift, it'll keep it a perfect circle. If you hold Option, it'll make the circle from the center. And if you hold Spacebar, you can actually move this circle around while you're sizing it up. Okay, so there's that. Command D to deselect. Now the next options we're going to talk about are the lasso tool, and that's where you can freehand select something. So let's say that I want to select just these shoes, and this is going to be a very quick selection. If you're doing this for real, obviously take your time and do a good job. So now that I've selected that, what can I do with my selection? Well, I can either cut it out like we've seen, or I can also duplicate just this selection to a new layer. So I can do Command J, and now you're going to see that it's on its own new layer, but if I take the visibility off, it hasn't cut it out of the original image. So sometimes if you're trying to use like separate pieces of one image, then that's the least destructive way to do so. So the lasso tool is very good. You can also click and hold. It's got the polygonal lasso tool. What that means is that, let's say I want to select just this table. I can click once right here. It's going to lock it in. I can move down the line, click again, and basically I'm using this. And to close off this selection, I have to go all the way back to the beginning, and you see the little circle on my icon. That's telling me that as soon as I click, it's going to commit to that selection. So again, you can do all the same stuff. You can move it around or whatever you want to do. Now that you have that selection, you can actually click and drag it and move it, just the selection, wherever you want, which is pretty cool. Okay. The reason you want to do that is you can use this selection on multiple levels, multiple layers. So let's say you move it and you go to a new layer and you want to cut it out. I'll show you guys what I mean here in a second using the text. The next thing is the magic wand tool. Now the magic wand tool, what it does is it actually selects things that are the same color within that layer. So let's say the shoes. If I click on the shoes, it's going to select everything that was in that parameter. I'm going to click again, and it's going to select all of the white pixels, or basically anything that's within a range of that white pixel. So same thing out here, the green. You can see that all of that is similar enough to where the magic wand tool selects it, and you can cut it right out. So I'm going to do Command Z, Command D. That's how the magic wand tool works. Now, if you make a selection such as the background like this, and you need to add to it, then you can hold Shift, and you see that little plus symbol. It's going to add to it. Now, let's say you want to get rid of some of this. You can actually hold Option or Alt, and it's going to deselect without losing your original selection. Let's move on to the next thing. The quick selection tool. This thing is awesome. I really do. I love the quick selection tool. If you need to size up the size of the brush. Then you can do that with the left and right bracket. And you'll notice that has a little plus symbol in it. What that is indicating to you is that it's going to add to the selection. So I'm going to click and drag. And what it's doing is it's selecting all the areas that are similar to the original selection. So this kind of light green type of thing. So I'm going to actually deselect. I'm going to try to select just the shoes. Okay, all I'm going to do is click and drag. And what it's doing is it's telling the computer that, hey, everything with these light pixels in it, I want to select that. Anything with these darker pixels, I don't want to select that. So if you need to make a better selection with the quick selection tool, then what you want to do is have a high contrast area. So for the instance, this shoelace here, it is obviously very, very light, and the leaves around it are darker. So if I click and drag, in here, it's going to select only that little part, no matter where as long as I stay in there. Obviously, if I kind of jut out like this, then it's going to kind of mess things up. Let's say I did mess up and I only want the shoestring. What I can do is hold Option, and it goes to a minus symbol, and I go on the outside of that selection and drag in, and it's going to take that selection out. So there's that. This is a good tool to use whenever you are, let's say you want to just select just her, and she's got, she's lighter, or a different tone at least than the background. Then it's very easy to just go in here, the quick selection tool, make your selection, and then do Command J to jump her to a layer all by herself. So I can do Command J from here, and there you go. She's all by herself. Obviously, you have to use this sparingly. If you don't get a good selection, you can always start with this, so like that. So I just make a really quick selection, hence the quick selection tool. And then if I want to add to it, I can obviously go into all these different other selection options, and I can hold Shift, and it's going to add to this selection. So I'm going to add this little part, and I want to close it off. If I can find the end, there it is. No? Oh my goodness. Anyway, you kind of get the point. I'm going to stop using this tool because it's obviously not working. I'm going to hit escape. So deselect. So that is the beauty of the selection tool. Let me show you a cool little trick on what you can do and how you can use this creatively. So I'm going to go and select the text layer, which is now rasterized, so it's actually an image of the text. And I'm going to get my magic wand tool. And if I select out here, there's technically nothing here. So it's selecting everything that is the same, which is nothing. Okay. Now, if you notice in the middle of the O and the R, it is not selected, and that is because it is outside of our selection range. So in order to add that, if I go in the middle, hold Shift, click there and click there, and now I have this selection that is everything outside of these letters. So now what I want to do is invert it. Okay, so I want to go to Select, Inverse. So now just the letters are selected. So I'm going to turn the visibility off on this and go to my second layer. I still have the selection here. So the selection can be used on multiple different layers. So now what I'm going to do is I can either cut it out. So I hit delete and it's going to cut out of the image, or I can do Command J and jump it to a layer all by itself. I'm going to Command Z. Or I can use this to clip out of different textures or anything like that. So the idea is that you can take the font and cut it out of different images. So let's say you have your face that you want to put in your name, then that is a perfect way to do it by using selections and jumping it to a new layer or cutting it out. However you want to do it, either way, you're definitely going to be using your selection tools. So make sure you use the variety of options that they have for you, and that's why they're there, so you can be creative. So if you have any questions about this, please go to my website, worleytutorials.com, and you can go to the connection page or connect page and email me. You can also comment on the posts below, or you can go to facebook.com/WorleyTuts and also twitter.com/WorleyTuts. So if you have any questions, please let me know and I'll answer them as quickly as possible.